Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Okay, recording in progress. Hi, everybody. Oh, sorry, I'm talking.
I just said, got it. Recording in progress, and then I have to click, got it.
Got it. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to 5x3 Radio. Rebecca and I are here. This is like podcast 2 of season 3. Diego likes these seasons. He's like, is this season 3? He told us that we had a good strong start to our season with our first podcast. So we just put out a podcast last week on training teenagers, and received some good feedback from it as far as what we covered. And I think it was probably an appropriate timing for some people whose children are just getting interested in strength training. And I hopefully gave some good suggestions of what to look for and how to help them, and how to just basically guide you as the parent or coach with that training. It's interesting. So the reason we did that podcast was we got a question from a listener whose daughter wanted to start, was doing this, and she wanted that Instagram butt. And I said, that's great. It's fine to want to look good. I think we should want to feel good and look good and feel good in our bodies. But I made mention that you might want to just keep an eye on how maybe obsessive it might become, right? Is it going into a negative?
Just keep it light, keep it fun.
Yeah. Is it going into a negative territory? Like, is it becoming more and more obsessive? Like lots of videos, lots of pictures being taken, lots of kind of obsessing about, what I look like. And that's not just for girls. My nephew contacted me and wanted to know if he should put his progress pics of his back on his Insta. And I said, absolutely not. I said, do not do that. Don't do that. If you want to send me progress pictures, that's great. You can send them to me. Yeah. I'm your aunt. I'm your coach.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just being all parental here, but as a kid, I just think you should not do that anyway.
No, you shouldn't. I mean,
not as a minor.
Don't do that. Don't put your pictures up there. And he met a fitness influencer at his gym, and he sent me his screenshot, and I checked out the guy's page, and I was like, okay, one thing, it's all abs, all shirtless pictures, So we went back and forth about it, and I said, I think he thinks a lot of himself, and he was like, yeah, but he can squat this. I'm like, he can't squat 4 or 5. I don't care. And and then he's like, but he's super cool. I'm like, that's fine. He's totally cool. I said, but I want you to not worry about what he looks like, and worry about what you are doing right now, building strength, getting stronger, eating, gaining some body size. Don't worry about what he looks like. So even boys, are definitely susceptible to what they see on Instagram. Sure. So it's not just young girls. You've got to watch out for the young boys too, because they're growing, they're developing, they're seeing these guys with 6-pack abs, and they want to look ripped, and it's like, bring it back down. Like, let's concentrate on really.
Yeah, it's always the abs, right? It's like you go to see any Marvel movie or whatever. And
yeah.
They have abs, or it's fat sore, right? One or the other.
Right. So you see that in the movies too, and everybody wants to be ripped. So this kind of leads into what we want to discuss today. Actually, Rebecca and I thought of talking about. And it's hard. We were trying to discuss, how do we go about approaching this subject? It's about the word bulky and what this means to people, and some, what do I say? Not suggestions, advice, just what it really takes. What does it mean in people's minds? It's a very subjective word.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the thing about it too is what it means is different depending on what community you're in, right?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
if you're part of the general population, it's like, oh, I don't want to lift heavy weights because I'll get bulky, and it's got a negative connotation.
Right.
But you talk to people who lift, right, and they might do like a bulking block or a hypertrophy block or bulking season, like
Right.
I've seen people post like bulking season was successful, and then do a cut after that. So
Right.
like building muscle mass in a weightlifting community is viewed positively. But you go out into the general public, people who haven't lifted before,
Right.
and that for a lot of people, not just women, but often women,
Yep.
is a big impediment, like something
Right.
that prevents them from even getting started.
Yep.
They've got ideas in their head, and they're like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to get bulky. Well, what does that mean?
Exactly. And unfortunately, I think the ideas that they have in their head, I'm going to say this, you used to come from magazines. What is a magazine these days? Now it's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's the internet. What you're seeing on your phone, right? Primarily what you're seeing on your phone of people who are lean and muscular and wanting to look like that or not wanting to look like that, and that connotation of like what bulky symbolizes, as you said, for different people. And I've had women come in, not too much men. I mean, some men have come in and said they don't want to get big, but women usually come in and will say, I just want to tone up. And that word tone, I don't want to dismiss that. I would never dismiss that. I just kind of say, oh yeah, well, we all have muscle tone. I mean, we do, right? We all have muscle tone. What do they really mean by that? I don't know. I don't think they can even explain what they mean by that. But what I think Rebecca and I assume is, they want to have some muscle. They want to have firm arms, right? They don't want to have sagging.
Not squishy.
Yes, they don't want to be squishy. They don't want to have sagging arms. They don't want to have the cellulite, which is completely normal for women.
That's a whole
other bag of worms, right? I mean, it really is. So, but what are they really looking for? And when they think of bulky, I think they really do think of, and again, it's very subjective, but like bodybuilders.
Yeah.
Right. They think of bodybuilders. And what does it take though for that bodybuilder to look that way? I don't think they realize how much it actually takes and how much it takes away from their life to look that way. So I thought we could talk about maybe some things like the word bulky, because we don't really want to go into what is bulky, what is not bulky, because that's very subjective. But
yeah, I mean, if you ask 10 different people what is bulky, yes, you give them photos to identify like which one of these individuals looks bulky to me, you're going to get 10 different answers. You're probably going to get more than 10 different answers from the 10 different people because they can't even decide themselves.
Exactly. And I think,
and if you're talking about bulky for yourself,
right,
a lot of that is going to have to do with just, your mood that day. Mm-hmm. Like you mm-hmm. could have pretty much the same body on Monday that you do on Tuesday, but on Monday you're in a crap mood because it's Monday.
Right.
Right. Like Friday, you're in a better mood.
Right.
So it's like you're more forgiving or more upbeat or less critical. And so, your even self-definition.
So I think
zero change.
Yeah. So I think that when people come, and I see men and women, because I think men too, I've had definitely men who, they don't want to get that big. Okay. You don't want to get too big. I understand that. That's cool. What does that mean though? I don't want to get that big. And what does it really take to get that big? So
yeah, and that's interesting too. Like a lot of times like the idea of having muscle mass, which is essentially what people are talking about when they're talking about bulk. It's muscle mass, how much muscle, and it's the muscle that people can see, mm-hmm. right? And that's a whole other thing, mm-hmm. like muscle mass that people have that is covered by body fat, still muscle mass,
right?
But like muscle that they can see on a lean body with abs is what guys want. So like this idea of having some muscle mass or a little bit of bulk in particular places, or even like, we talked about last week, the Instagram worthy butt, right? So mm-hmm. some muscle mass in mm-hmm. very particular places, mm-hmm. not around the waist, not here, not there, whatever. I mean, so you kind of have like these aesthetic notions about what bulky or lifting weights might do to a person. But a lot of times, I think with the guys that come in and they say they don't want to get bulky,
Yeah.
not just guys, but women too, but maybe a little bit more with guys. There might be like an athletic performance aspect to it as well. Maybe they do some other sort of men or women that run, they don't want to get bulky because it's going to slow them down.
Right.
They think.
Right. And they don't want to be too muscular. Same reason, right? I don't want to slow down with my running or with my biking. And, with that individual, with any of the individuals, their goals are very different, right? So they're not going to be training 5 days a week in the gym because they have their running and they have their biking. So they'll be training twice a week, and their progress will be slow but steady if they're consistent. And they're not going to, their focus is not on building a lot of mass. It's more of gaining some strength for their sport, right? And I think that's really what we have to talk about is like the word bulk. When people who really do want to lift weight, gain weight, they make an effort to eat and eat and eat and consistently get in the gym and lift. I have a client right now has been with us for over a year, and he came in with the goal of gaining weight. Tall guy, skinny. His lifts weren't going well because he wasn't, eating a lot and he wasn't lifting consistently. He got in the gym, and within a year, it took a good year. Not just, a couple months, because I have pictures of him from June to September and he looks exactly the same. Now, September to August, very different. But that's because he went from 3 times a week to 4 times a week and really made an effort to eat consistently. He has put weight on. He is happy. He is happy. He's bigger. He's stronger. And he feels better in his body. He feels physically like this is what he wanted to accomplish. That's his goal. That was his goal. But he had to make a real effort to consistently get in week in, week out and lift weights. I have other people, that's not their goal, right? So they're not going to get that big. They're not going to gain the weight that he's gained because they're not, A, making the effort to eat that way, and B, they're not getting in 4 days a week and training heavy like he is. So what does it take to get big? I think, I kind of just answered that of eating and lifting. Like, you've got to do a lot of eating and a lot of lifting. Diego.
A lot of eating and a lot of lifting
over
a lot of time.
Like my husband, people look at him and, my nephew wants to look like him, right? A lot of people like the way he looks. He is 35 pounds heavier, 30 pounds heavier than he was when I met him. That took years. That did not happen overnight. He's been going to the gym since he was 17 years old, but he started strength training in 2010, like really consistently strength training in 2010. So it's been 12 years of him putting on that type of mass for his body. Mm-hmm. He's got to keep that weight on by eating and lifting.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. With Diego in 2010, when he started lifting, did he also start eating differently at that
Yes.
point? Like eating more intentionally?
A lot more. Yeah, because he was a vegetarian up until the time he met me.
That's hilarious.
He also didn't drink until the time he met me either. So, so I don't know if that was a, good thing, but he and I both changed our eating habits dramatically and on purpose. The purpose was for us to add to our performance in the gym. That meant eating better, eating more, and continuously starting to strength train. And I think, we built better, stronger bodies, and as a result, did away with a lot of aches and pains that we had when we were younger due to the fact that we were stronger. But it took him so much to put that weight on and to put that muscle on, and it didn't come on overnight. It's years and years and years and years and months and months and months. So, and if
you did that backwards, months and then
months and years. So I think that mindset of, well, if I come in the gym and I put that bar on my back and I squat down and do 5 reps, boom, that next thing I know, I've got thunder thighs. Man, I wish it worked that way. Because God, it would save me so much time and energy for all the crap that I'm doing to try to put muscle on my legs, right? It's like a dancer. this thinking they're going to become a principal ballerina the minute they walk in the dance studio and just start doing a bunch of plies. Well, I don't want to do too many plies because I don't want to become too good too soon. Oh, honey, it doesn't work that way, right? So that is one major thing I think that we need to try to help people understand, the takeaway
and over the course of that time, over those many months and many years, there are a lot of inflection points.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of times at which a person could say, you know what, I actually really enjoy lifting heavy weights, but I feel like I'm not getting enough conditioning training for the sport or the weekend activities that I enjoy doing. So I'm going to change my training a little bit, or actually maybe I am building more muscle mass than I wanted. So I'm going to change my weight training and eat a little bit differently. Like, there's lots of points at which a person can stop and evaluate how is their program working for them.
Exactly.
Do I want to make changes? And that's what you're going to do anyway with someone, right? Like, even if their goal is put on muscle mass, absolute weight on the bar, keep getting stronger, you're going to do the program until it starts to, not work as well. And then you're going to change some things, same thing. It just, the goal can be different than putting on lots of muscle mass.
Absolutely.
And still lift heavy.
Absolutely.
You can just change
Yeah. I think for me, it's helping people change the mindset of why do they want to start strength training, or what does strength training really embody? And there's so many other aspects of strength training than just, putting on muscle mass. There's bone density, there's confidence, right? There's movement skills that you're learning, learning how to move better. So there's so many more aspects to that. And I try to really tick off those points and try to separate the idea of the bulk but this is really what you're looking at. Like, when you start to strength train, this is what you're going to feel. This is what you're going to notice about yourself. You're not going to notice that muscle. I mean, I have people in my gym who look the same as they did when they first walked in, but they're a hell of a lot stronger, and they move a lot better, and they may be a little bit smaller. Like, maybe they've actually, because if they're there for a good long year, they probably put some muscle on. One of my ladies who just moved to Boston to do residency, she was training with us, and she's so tiny, and she did so well when she was with us, because she came to us in 2016, but she was in school then, so she couldn't stay long. Left, came back recently, was there with us for a year. She's telling me, she goes, I've got to get new shirts, because and I'm looking at her going, where? Where is it? But it must have been there, but I couldn't see it, but she could feel it, and she was excited. She was happy because she wants to feel strong. She wants to be strong. She wants to feel like her body is changing and growing, and that confidence is only it's going to carry her into into the field that she's in as a doctor. So, but the mindset of what really what strength training does, and trying to steer people from that idea of I just want to tone. Yeah, but there's so much more to this than just that concept. That idea.
I mean, once you kind of get through the door and get started and get past this hurdle of bulky, right, as if that's a bad thing, you get past that and you start to realize how it feels to be stronger, how it positively impacts your life, your ability to, get stuff done comfortably out in the real world without worrying about, I'm going to pick up this 50-pound feed bag and chuck it into that storage bin, and am I going to tweak my back in the process?
Right.
No, because I deadlift 6 times.
And there's that concept. We pick up so much stuff in our real life. We move stuff around. People help people move furniture. People help you go to the store and you got to pick up a 20-pound bag of dog food or whatever. We don't think twice about that. If I pick up the 20-pound dog, I might just blow out my biceps. My biceps might get so huge that I can't, scratch but we don't think about that. But somehow looking at that dumbbell or that barbell, and
you take that same weight and you make it in the shape of a barbell, and all of a sudden
that concept is just I'm gonna just tear right out of my shirt. But I think it comes from media. It comes from magazines, right? It comes from that picture of, don't look like this, look like this. But how do you look like that? Those women who look like that, you don't know what their nutrition is. You really don't know what their exercise regimen is. So much of that, when people talk to me about, I want to, focus on my abs, I'm like, I can't help you with that. That's in the kitchen, man. Like, I can help you with that, but I'm not with you. I'm only with you for an hour. I'm not with you for the other
hours.
Exactly. And that's really where all that happens. And people don't want to, they don't want to think about the nutrition aspect of their life.
In a lot of ways, that's harder.
It's much harder.
Well, and it's more time consuming for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
And potentially more, like for people who get obsessive about stuff like that, potentially more harmful.
Exactly.
But I guess the point I was kind of thinking, like you're talking about people in your gym who come in and they don't look to you to be significantly different in terms of their physical build, but they are definitely stronger because you can see that based on what they're doing in their lifts.
Yes.
You just don't know. It's an experiment, right? So its strength looks different on everybody.
Absolutely.
And some people are going to start lifting and they're going to start building lean muscle mass. And maybe they're going to go down a couple sizes because maybe they were just extra fluffy to begin with. They had more body fat, and not as much muscle mass.
Yep.
So they're going to get stronger and leaner at the same time without doing much other than just lifting the weights. You're going to have some people who are particularly lean to begin with. And sure, they might likely start getting bigger. In particular, I think if you get a lean woman or ute, teenager,
two utes,
a lot of times people don't have back muscles,
right.
So you start lifting and it's like, wait, why are my pants tighter? It doesn't look that different to me in the front. I actually can see like abs now. But it's like all of a sudden now you got back muscle that you never used to have before. So, shirts might be tighter under the armpits, right? Like, and honestly, it's like a lot of the women that I've worked with that are under-muscled, right? That's like the strength training term for lean women.
That's right.
Under-muscled to begin with, like typically what they'll notice when they get started, even if they're not gaining weight really, is just some proportional changes in their body. And they might have more spinal erector. So the pants might be a little bit tighter around the waist. Armpits, harder to shave for sure.
Like my
you get lats.
like my young client who just moved to Boston. That's exactly it. She's a small, lean woman who after a year is like, oh my God, like I'm actually I have a back, I have shoulders now, and I'm looking at her going, I don't see it because I've seen her every single week. Someone else who hasn't seen her for a while will see something different. Absolutely, we'll see something completely different.
And I mean, your body might feel different to you when you get started. And if it's something, like I was saying, if it's something that you don't like the way it looks or you don't like the way it feels, then take that as a point in your training to evaluate how you want to proceed for the next block of training. Do I want to change the training? Do I want to change the nutrition?
But I think you need to give it time to, like, you can't just say after a week, oh, this isn't working for me. It's it doesn't work like that. Like when you start something and you have never done something like this before, Diego, we call it the pump. You feel this pump in your body. You're feeling the muscles. I mean, you're feeling the blood and the water and glycogen kind of moving around. That's a pump. And some people feel that and they feel like, oh my God, I'm getting big. No, that's just blood and glycogen and water moving around. Like that's just your muscles kind of going, oh my God, you're doing something good for me. Like keep it up. I mean, people who lose a substantial amount of weight and don't strength train, I always say, become a smaller version of themselves. They're still flab there. They're smaller. They've lost weight, but they haven't built any muscle. Their bones haven't been working. Their tendons, their ligaments. So they are a smaller version. Are they healthier? Probably, yeah. I mean, they don't have as much weight. They're not carrying as much weight, but now they've traded that body for this other body, and the strength training is just only going to create a physically stronger, healthier body as a result. You want that muscle. That muscle, people don't realize, will burn more fat, right? You have more muscle, you can burn more calories. And if you're eating well and sleeping well, right, then it's going to have a good effect on you. There's nothing negative about muscle. But I think aesthetically, that gets into a whole like subjective, what do I want to look like? And that's something that's very different for every individual. All we know is we can say this: it takes a lot of effort to put on a lot of muscle, and it takes years and years and years to do that. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a month. It doesn't happen in 2 months. It happens in many months. Yeah. And you have to give it time. And then as you said, if it's still, you feel like it's not quite working for you, like it's, this is too much, then you just bring it down a notch. You bring it down, you talk to your coach, or you decide for yourself, maybe I need to try to go pull back on how many training sessions I do and focus on a little bit more conditioning. That's fine. That's everyone's going to decide what they want. But I think that most people, when they start strength training, see the other benefits of it and realize how much better their body feels. And that concept of like getting big or kind of just diminishes.
Well, and so I'm thinking about two things based on what you were just saying. And one is this concept that you and Diego were mentioning about the pump, right? Like, and the thing that's interesting to me about that is I have really only ever had that feeling when I have done hypertrophy style training. So lots and lots of reps at a much lighter weight. So like before I started doing any of this barbell heavier lifting, it was, I'd do a moderately heavy weight in, group power or, like body pump class. And for like 3 minutes, you're doing bicep curls. And I can tell you, I hated that feeling.
Sure.
I hated the feeling of 3 minets worth of bicep curls because I really did feel like my biceps were going to explode out of my
well, who would want to do that?
Yeah. Right? So I have never had that feeling. And me personally, that feeling of pump is uncomfortable. It's a feeling of discomfort for me. And I've never had that with barbell training, with heavy lifting. And the thing that's interesting to me about that is the misconception. When people think, oh, I'm going to get bulky, they always think it's like the heavier weight, fewer reps.
Right.
And they think that the solution to that
is to
quote unquote tone is to do higher reps at a lighter weight.
Right.
And that prescription is how I am most uncomfortable.
Interesting. Yeah. And I mean, I'm so used to doing just like fewer reps. I mean, if I do anything over 5, I'm doing like rows, right? I'm doing, seated rows or dumbbell rows, something like that. But I definitely do feel like after a session, I don't feel uncomfortable. I feel like I do. I feel like I'm standing taller. Like I'm feeling, and I put my jeans on, and my jeans kind of fill out a little bit more because things are moving around. There's a feeling of like I've used my body. Like I feel good. It doesn't, but I can definitely see the amount of work that you do, like the 3 minutes of bicep curls, and then and you're like, what the hell? That's more of just tiring. Like your body's like, why'd you do that to me?
Yeah, right.
That wasn't nice of you.
I thought we were friends.
Can't you go back to sets of 5 with squats? Do you have to do that to me?
I'm sorry, I complained about that.
And then some people live for that, they live for that. My husband lives for that pump.
I hate that feeling.
He lives for that pump.
I mean, like there's so much about it that's subjective, right?
Exactly. That's what it comes down to. I mean, it comes down to that. But I think that we can definitely say there's some things that we can certainly take that myth of bulky and say, you know what? I get you, I hear you, but let me explain to you really what happens when you start strength training. Like, let me give some examples. Let me talk to you about my experience. Let me pull somebody in and have them talk to you. I mean, it does. Here's the checklist of all that it does for you. I can't see any negatives to it. Sure, it may make you sore. Okay, whatever. It can be, it can be tiring. Okay, whatever. But what are the negatives? Like, give me negative. If someone gives me negatives, well, I'm going to get big.
It takes a lot.
How do you know you're going to get big? You have never done it before. Yeah. Well, I used to. No, you didn't. You didn't. And probably you were eating a lot more too. And that's the thing too. I think we don't ever think about what we really eat. I got a new tracker on my phone, a new fitness food tracker.
Uh-huh.
And I love it. I love it. I finally put some money out. I've been using the Lose It forever, and it's free. I finally put some money down.
What'd you get?
The macro tracker by the Stronger by Science guys.
Oh, interesting.
Macro factor. So, and I'm not going to plug. I mean, I can plug macro factor. I don't get a commission or anything from this. So I don't even know these guys. But Diego's he's been talking about it. So I finally was like, well, let me try this. And I literally have been tracking like every single thing I put into my mouth, and then going, oh,
yeah,
I really do eat more than I think I do.
Well, and if you're gonna,
right,
plug something, right? Like I'll plug a freebie one,
right.
I've been doing essentially the same thing for the last week, maybe two, but I'm just using the free version of my Fitness Pal. Yeah, and for sure, 100% that revelation of, oh my God, like there were that many calories in the things I was mindlessly eating while I stood in the pantry, right? And so, I mean, and the reason, right? Like you're talking about bulky, right? For me, over the past 2 years, just not paying attention to what I've been eating, not paying attention to what I've been drinking.
Right.
COVID times, right? Like, oh, everybody's, just apocalypse, end of the world, eat what you want. Right?
Oh, wait, now the vaccine. Okay, now we're back at the office.
We're past that. Yeah, now I'm out in the real world. I better get my shit back together again, right? And the thing about it, and I was thinking about this when you were talking about how much time it takes to build muscle and how much time it takes for body recomposition, right? People want these quick fixes and they think, oh, I'm going to, whatever dieting things are advertised. Oh, lose 10 pounds in the first week. That is bullshit. That is all just water weight that you're losing.
Yes.
So I got the MyFitnessPal thing set up to lose 0.5 pound a week, right? Which is not a lot.
No.
Right? But that's 300 calories, roughly. 300 calories fewer per day.
Yep.
And when you start actually tracking and paying attention to how many calories are in the things that you mindlessly eat and the intentionality that is involved in just losing 0.5 pound a week.
Exactly.
Right? And people, so for me, it's like this feeling or appearance or whatever of bulky, if that's what I am. To me, I interpret what I am right now as fluffy, right?
Right.
I actually am lifting lighter weights at this point than I did when I first started in whatever that was, 2015, 5x3. And I weighed less. My body weight was lighter. I was lifting heavier weights. I was a hell of a lot leaner looking, but I was stronger then than I am now. So it's like heavy weights at that point didn't have anything to do with
nothing.
It's fluff.
Exactly. No, fluff. That's why That's why I think talking about the nutrition aspect is important, and I don't necessarily that's not the first thing when someone comes in and says, I don't want to get bulky. I'm like, well, what's your nutrition like?
It's like I'm not gonna. The thing that pops into my head is, do you know that meme where it's like, I think it's Dwight from The Office or something, right? And he's like, weights don't make you bulky, cupcakes do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's more of like, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that aspect, but that is an important aspect because it does go into those people who want to get bigger. It doesn't come from just lifting weights. It comes from eating, and they intentionally eating to lift weights. I mean, I'm trying to get my nephew to gain weight, right? So what am I telling him to do? I'm like, you've got to eat. You got to have milkshakes. You got to be drinking milk. I mean, he is the gallon of milk a day right there, generation. My young intern who's 18, talking about his eating habits, and my nephew's texting him like, what should I eat, man? Here's you need to eat this. I mean, so there's an intentionality there where, with us, you and I, we're 50 I'm not 50 just yet. I shouldn't say that. You're a 50-year-old. I'm almost 50.
I'm about to have a birthday.
Oh my God. That's right, you are. So, but we're women, middle-aged women. We're not going to eat like that. And we need to, and then for us, we have to be mindful, like, okay, how comfortable do I want to be? And if I intentionally want to lose weight or intentionally want to gain weight, I gotta track. I gotta figure out what I'm doing.
And it's harder work too. And I mean, like you're mentioning the 50, right? So like I'm about to turn 52, right? So what has happened to me over the last couple of years, I feel pretty confident has a lot to do with just not paying attention to, what I'm putting in my mouth. There might be some like hormonal aspect to that, right?
Absolutely.
Like there could be, some menopausal connection to it, but this is a totally other topic, right? But like what people are willing to do or not willing to do, what they're going to look at, and oh, I don't want to lift weights because I'm going to get bulky. No sense in me tracking the food because I'm 50 something and it's menopause. This is just going to happen anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, that's where I think, if that topic has to come up, if that conversation has to be had, then it has to be had about, well, really, what's your nutrition like? What's going on with that? But that's usually for my clients who are already lifting and decide that they either need to gain some weight or they'd like to lose some weight. And then we talk about that. But that word bulky, it's not lifting weights. That's, you got to do a lot. You got to do a lot, and you have to really make an effort to make that a priority in your life. And if it's not a priority, it's not going to happen. If it's going to happen outside of the gym, in the kitchen, at the restaurant, at the parties. So, but those are all choices that we make. They're all choices that we make. But you can't yell. You can't blame the weights. You make me bulky. No. It doesn't. It can, if you consistently pick it up, week in and week out. It can make you bigger. It can make you stronger. It can put muscle on you. But only people who really intentionally want that are going to have that, right? Intentionally. And then we've got people who naturally build muscle faster than others.
Yeah.
Right. And there are those people too, men and women, and that's them. Those are their bodies. But
people who naturally are going to build muscle faster, and then also people who are just naturally going to have like
exactly.
a little more body weight.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
I guess at this point, pretty much. I guess people who are outside the fitness world aren't as familiar with endomorph, ectomorph,
right.
But like, types. In our world, those are pretty common terms, and the concept that people have different body types that are going to look different and carry weight different, and that's a thing that's like your body type. You can't really change. One thing you had said earlier was like a person might lose weight and have a smaller version of themselves, right? So you're not really going to change your body type. It might just be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but I think, and then, we're talking about tracking and food, and there are plenty of people who don't want to track their food, who don't use it that way, who just
fun, and who wants to do it for
it's not, but it is interesting because
Diego eats the same thing every day.
and of course weighs himself, and he's like, oh, I weigh this, and it hasn't changed in a year, because he eats the same thing all the time. I like the macro factor.
Like a robot,
no.
though.
I like the macro factor. I like it because it's actually going by my energy expenditure.
Oh, like are you hooked up to something?
No, it just has my information. It's the way it's built in. It's the app itself. That's kind of like, you if you are truly logging your food, everything you eat, and you're weighing yourself, which I am, because the scale is a measurement tool, and it has taken me 30 some years to learn that, but it's a way for them, the app, to help me calculate, okay, am I moving in the right direction? As I weigh in, it adjusts the energy expenditure, like to cut it down more, because it's realizing, okay, well, Emily's not quite, she's kind of losing, but then the trend is not quite moving the way she wants to, so we need to adjust this. But you have to really pay attention to what you eat. Now, it's easy when you eat the same thing, because I can just plug it in, but I like it better than
that would be easy for Diego. You and I are more like eat your emotions.
But
type of people.
Yeah, but and then of course I do like the fact that I can click on it. Says, are you fasting or are you on your period? I'm like, oh, definitely on my period. So there, but it's interesting. But it's interesting. I like this. I've had to lose it forever, and I don't do this all the time. I've just decided to try this, and see where it takes me, because every now and then I just decide I need to get back on track. And this is a really easy way for me to kind of get back into like the swing of things and into a good routine. And for me, it's more of just that works for me. But there are plenty of people who sometimes lose weight without feeling like realizing that they've lost weight. And then those who want to, but really aren't ready to do it just yet. And this is only going on to a whole other topic right now, but I think it goes along with the whole idea of like, I don't want to be big, but the word big really comes from, I think, this nutrition aspect and not so much the training.
We're kind of talking about, people think like the article that you and I were looking at,
right,
that sort of like sticks in our mind, or sticks in my mind when somebody says to me, oh, I don't want to get bulky, is this Molly Galbraith article. And I guess it's like from 2000, I don't know when, early 2000s that she wrote this. But, the idea of I don't want to get big and bulky, those two things seem to go together in people's minds. But, the idea of whether the big and bulky is from muscle mass or whether it's from body fat, and can people even really distinguish between the two when they're looking at an image of someone that they think of as bulky, or when they look at themselves and think of themselves as bulky. I mean, we kind of talked about bulky in terms of muscle mass, body fat, but then also how you feel in your own body when you're doing.
Yeah. And some women, I mean, the article that Rebecca's talking about was written by Molly Galbraith, who's Girls Gone Strong. And there she shows a picture of Jessica Biel, the actress Jessica Biel, in the beginning. And the picture of her in this, I don't know, when it was taken, but she's quite, in our minds, she's quite lean and thin. But women looked at that and saw bulk. I think they saw muscle.
I guess they did this survey 2009.
2009. I think they saw muscle. And in their minds, she has muscle that they don't.
Who knows what they thought, but they identified her as quote unquote bulky. 1/3 of the people involved in this poll.
Yeah, but if you look at a lot of, I don't know. It just, I think people, they have, again, it's very subjective. I think it always comes back to that. Yeah. It's just so subjective that you can't really put a finger on exactly that. But I think the biggest factor, and this is in the article too, the X factor is body fat. We ignore that. And it comes down to that. It comes down to, we ignore that, and we realize that what we eat, our diet, our nutrition has everything to do with what the bulk is, right? And some people who are going to be very lean and also put on a lot of muscle are going to be very muscular looking, right? And then you've got people who are muscular, but they've got fat on their bodies. They don't look as muscular. They're big, but they don't have that definition. So would they be considered bulky? I think it's that looking, quote unquote, looking like a man, that women kind of, they don't want, and some men don't like that look on women. See, again, it's this whole subjective.
And I think we had talked about this at some point before, because I have definitely, I've had at least one client who stopped training, not because she felt like she was getting too muscular, but she loved what she was doing, and she loved the self-confidence that she was building. And for her, it was kind of getting back in touch with some of her her roots in high school athletics and stuff, and it was really empowering. It was great for her. But with the relationship that she was in at that point, the guy was like, yeah, I don't think so, actually. And then I'm sure we did talk about this, because then when I was doing my gym tourism in New Jersey at Attila's a couple summers ago, I met a woman who actually was had started lifting weights, really got into lifting heavier and heavier, and was purposefully lifting heavier weights, eating to support it, felt great about the fact that, she was lifting lots. Attila is more than most of the men. She's squatting, whatever, more than most of the men.
Right.
At least when I was there. And the guy, her husband was like, I didn't tell you you could do that. I didn't tell you you could look like that. And so, 2-3 years later, they're divorced.
Thank God. Sorry. Thank God.
I think they were headed in that direction anyway, and that kind of confirmed it.
But see, that's part of it too. It's like, I think that there are plenty of men out there too, not just women, who they see a woman who has some semblance of a body, has more muscle than they think she should have, and right away it's, I don't like the way you look. Well, I don't care how you think I look. I feel good. I feel great. And of course, then, trying to find, finding somebody who's going to appreciate them for who they are and not just what they look like.
How they appear.
Yeah, it is. This is always an interesting topic to discuss.
Yeah,
and
there's
talk
so
about.
Much to it. It's like
so much.
There's a lot of
it's very complex.
like emotional layers to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very complex, and you can't. And I definitely have off and on made a couple posts on my Instagram page of like bulky, and I think of it. I get offended by the word, myself, because I don't see it as a negative word. I see it as it's something that's subjective for anybody, and what's to say that what you think is right for me is not right for me. What I want for me is right for me. And if I'm not hurting my body or hurting anybody else, I feel like if this is giving me the confidence and the self-esteem that I've been looking for, that's on you. That's not on me.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting subject to talk about, and obviously, it's again, I'll use this word once again. It's very, very, very subjective.
Yeah.
So if you've got those of you who are listening to this topic, if you've got questions or any thoughts of your own about this word, and maybe even examples or of in your own life of when you've encountered somebody who's considered you, if you're lifting bulky, or if you've ever decided that you've used this word before, because I have. How many years ago? I wrote that in my journal. Don't want to get too big. And what changed your mind if you had those thoughts? We'd love to hear from you. We will be back in a couple weeks. As always, please send us your ideas. If you've got ideas or questions about anything that we've discussed or something that we haven't talked about and you'd like us to talk about, we're always open to that. You can reach me at emily@5by3.com or Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
Have a great week, everybody. And if you are interested in checking out the article that we were referring to, it's Molly Galbraith, and she spells her name Molly, Molly Galbraith, Galbraith. She's with Girls Gone Strong, and she's a fantastic resource for women.
Well, and I think what's interesting with this article too is like just the examples, visual and statistical examples. Women who she gives their stats on like what they lift, what they weigh, and then you get to see what that weightlifting ability at that weight and height looks like on that individual. It's all individual.
I mean,
there are people who have comparable stats, comparable sizes, but look very different. And
as I said to Rebecca before we started recording, I said, people will come in and they'll mention the word bulky, and I'll just kind of like put my arms up and I'll say,
I don't know what that means.
Am I bulky? I lift weights, and they look at me always. I've never had anyone say to me, "Yes, you are." They've said, "Oh, no, you look great." I'm like, but I'm big in my mind. Like, I've got muscle. What is the bulky?
This is where the thing happens, right? Like, you think you're big. You start lifting weights, you think you're big. I start lifting weights, and
you think it's taller.
I think I'm 5'4" now.
So it's it is so what that kind of when I say that, they stop and they start to think, well, yeah, really, I guess what am I talking about?
When people say that, though, I wonder if it's because in the first place when they say that, they're saying it and in their mind there's a negative connotation, and then they realize like, oh wait, if I say that, maybe I've just insulted her.
The only time I've had someone say something to me is my bar article. Oh God, that horrendous bar article that I wrote how many years ago that I'm still getting comments on. Still to this day, 9 years later. And someone once said to me something about, I love my bar classes. I don't want, you may want to have a muscly or something muscly body.
Muscly?
But I want to slip into my cotton jeans.
Nope.
And I'm like, nope, stretchy jeans for me. always. Hashtag stretchy jeans. Hashtag all the stretch.
I was laughing to myself. Our article is it like, yeah, people, I guess, they get their thing. They like what they like, and then they become so committed to it, it's almost cult-like.
Oh, absolutely.
And then that's what I was thinking in my head, and then I was like, oh well, aren't we just part of the biggest?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Strength lifting cult out there.
So yeah, but that's so again, always subjective. Everybody's got an opinion, and that's okay. Just mine's always the best.
Oh yeah, no, I knew. Wait, everyone's got an opinion. Or, wait, how does it go? Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has.
Exactly. And to end on that note, have a great week, everybody, and we'll be back soon. Thanks, Rebecca.
Take care.
Bye. Thanks for listening to 5x3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5x3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.